All rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Please be seated. Good morning and welcome. Court officer, can you please call the case?
Good morning, Your Honors. This is case KSC BC 2020-04, Specialist Prosecutor versus Peter Shala.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. On the right-hand side, we are in the same composition, I see. Yes, thank you. And on the left-hand side, too, thank you. Very well, that is noted. We continue today with the re-examination of defense witness 4754. This is Mr. Mark Shala. Yes, we will sit for 3 sessions of 1.5 hours with our regular breaks. Court clerk, could you please usher the witness in? Welcome. Mr. Witness, welcome back to the Specialist Chambers. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear the witness well and me?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you very well.
Also hear the witness?
Paul.
Yes.
Mr. Witness, how are you today?
Mir.
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, I remind you that you're still under oath to tell the truth. Do you understand that?
Po.
Yes.
Yesterday, we completed the questioning by the Specialist Prosecutor's Office and Victims' Counsel. We are now entering a second round, so I will give the floor to the defense. I understood yesterday that you have some questions for the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning to Your Honors and everyone in and around the courtroom. We reviewed the evidence of the witness overnight, and we don't have any further questions for this witness. So just to thank him for attending and his efforts, and no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very well. That means that it stops for the parties and Victims' Counsel here, and then it's the turn for the panel. Mr. Witness, there are now some questions to be posed by the panel, yeah, in order to further clarify some parts of your testimony and to further explore some matters. Let me see. Yes, I will start off with a video which I would like to show you, an excerpt of a video. And I would like to ask you if you recognize the person. For that, we need to go into a private session. Madam Court Officer, could you please bring us into private session?
Your Honors, we are now in private session.
Very well. I will read out the ERN, which is 07824901. And then we would start at 5 minutes and 10 seconds. And I think it will be 1.5 minutes that we will be looking at this video. And there will be a person talking. And my question to you will be if you know who that person is. And then I might have some further follow-up questions. You may proceed. Thank you, Madam Court Officer. And we don't have a voice, but that's not what is most important. Okay. Madam Court Officer, can you please stop the video? And we can leave it on the screen. Mr. Witness, do you recognize the person in the video?
This young woman that is reading, or somebody else?
The young woman who is reading.
Yun.
No. I don't remember her. Except the two first people who were shown. The first one I don't remember the name, but the second one was Shefki Abdullahu. So I don't remember the first person that was shown, and this young woman, I don't know her name. I remember the event though.
Except we have looked at the woman here. You don't know who she is. That I understand, correct?
Yo.
No, I don't.
Have you seen this woman at the premises of the Cookers Metal Factory?
specific
She looks familiar, but I don't remember her name.
Remembered her name. My question was, have you seen her in the months April, May, and the part of June that you were at the Cuckoo's Metal Factory, according to your testimony? Have you seen her?
I think I did.
And when you say, I think I did, would that have been more times or only once? Can you recall that?
mushroom seni here.
More than once.
Okay. And can you remember during, if that would be at the beginning of your stay or at the end of your stay? Or throughout?
I think it was at the beginning of my stay.
And do you know in what capacity she was there?
Similar.
I think this was the funeral of members of the KLA, and she read this letter on behalf of the commander of that unit. I can't remember exactly which funeral this was, but I think she read the letter on behalf of the commander. I think she was in the command staff.
Okay. When, but only if you remember. I understand it's a long time ago. But when you saw her at the Cuckoo's Metal Factory, do I understand right that she was... No, I will make my question more open. When you saw her at the beginning, apparently you're not completely sure, but you remember to have seen her at the beginning of your stay. Do you know in what capacity she was there?
I think she was a simple soldier. I saw her at the beginning, but the images that we saw, this was from the time when members of the KLA had been killed. At the beginning of the fighting that took place, and this must have been later when she held this speech.
Two follow-up questions. You say at the beginning when the fighting that took place, to what fighting are you referring?
The Operation Arrow.
Okay, so what time frame are we then talking about?
We're talking about the end of May, around that time. from the 25th to the 30th of May.
Yes, and the woman that was reading this letter or this document, she's wearing a blue beret. Could you say anything about the color of this beret? If it if it belonged to a uniform?
No. That was not something that was different from others because at the time there were different kinds of uniforms. It depended on where they came from. However, the members of the KLA had the caps that the other soldiers are wearing, but perhaps she was given this cap or beret by somebody else, and maybe she didn't have another one. But it wasn't something unusual. People or somebody would wear something else. So this was not different. This was not any different.
That the fact that you would wear a blue beret or a blue cap was just random, was just by chance.
Yes, by chance. When I returned from Croatia, I had my own uniform from Croatia and a black beret. So I would wear the black beret or the cap as the other soldiers, the same as the other soldiers. There was no special regulation about this because uniform supplies it was difficult to get uniforms, and uniforms would differ from their appearance, color, so we would use whatever we had.
Madam Court Officer, could you please put on the video again so we watch it some more? We can stop here and we see here somebody with a red beret. Would that signify something?
No, as I said earlier, there was nothing significant in that. There was a unit called the Atlantic Unit, and they were coming from the United States. They would come with uniforms that they had bought in the United States, and most of them had red berets.
Okay. Madam Court Officer, could you bring us back to the beginning of the excerpt from the video? Thank you, and then please turn it on again. I see a great amount of green caps, camouflage design. And then we see one blue cap and one red cap. And your testimony is it's by chance. It's not part of a uniform to indicate that you belong to a group, a specific group.
Jo,
No.
Thank you for this, Madam Court Officer. We can stop this video and pull up another one, which is 07513802. And then I would like to ask you to go to 12 minutes and 40 seconds. It will be played without sound. And we see two persons on the right-hand side wearing blue berets. Madam Court Officer, maybe can you go back? And then I will, yes, maybe one step further. Or you just play it again. That might be easier. Stop. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. I asked too much. Yeah, no, then it gets blurred. But, Mr. Witness, have you been able to see the two person they're both wearing a blue beret.
pardon, wie was dat?
Yes, the two young women.
With a blue beret. The first woman, so more to us, standing more on the first woman counting from the right. Did you recognize her?
Well, the picture is a bit blurred, but I don't know her, no.
Soms
There were many young women, but I don't remember her.
Maybe we can play it again, Madam Court Officer. Thank you, you can stop it. Mr. Witness, the woman we just saw, in your view, is that the same woman we saw in the other video?
Voor mijn doeken.
It looks like the same, but the picture, as I said, was quite blurred, so I couldn't see whether it was exactly her or not, but it looks like one of them is her.
And on the video, she was wearing. Oh, maybe Madam Court Officer, can we go back and play it again? I don't want to put any words in the mouth of the witness. And could you please focus, Mr. Witness, on the headwear of the two young women? Or I don't know if they're young, both. But. What is the color of the headwear?
They had.
Poi, è calcio,
Oh, it's blue, yes.
So you say, again, your testimony is that they were both wearing blue, but that was a random choice. They received what they got.
Rasse, sì, rasse.
It's just by chance. It's just random, yes. Can I just explain something briefly?
Here, you see that where my questions are directed at.
Non che...
With regard to uniforms and caps,
Court officer, you can pull the video down. I think it's better not to have this video like this. Thank you.
can I continue? I would like to explain something about the uniforms. We did not have much choice in respect to uniforms, so we couldn't choose the uniforms we wanted and to have them of the same type, because the uniforms were coming from all over the place, some from the German army, from various countries like Croatia, the ones that are block color with a white belt. I think those were from Croatia. But in relation to the caps, sometimes the caps would come of the same serial number with the same size, and it was the large size. So only men could wear them because they had bigger size heads. And there were no available caps for women. And berets and caps were bought especially for them somewhere else in the market. And that's why I say this is random, this is by chance. And in relation to the red berets, the unit that came from the States, they were wearing red berets. The whole unit had red berets, but sometimes somebody would give away their red beret to somebody else as a gift. So that's why some people in the funeral are wearing red berets. So that's the explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Witness, for this clarification. And then a last question. Would there be a special uniform for medical personnel?
gjithë personeli
All of the medical personnel, when they were not on duty, they also wore the military uniform or fatigues at all the time. But when they were on duty, they would wear the uniforms like the white coat if they were a doctor or a nurse. So they would wear that type of uniform. So uniforms that are the medical type for doctors and nurses.
Okay. Thank you. I have one more question, but I'm going to look up for the reference, and in the meantime, I will give the floor to my colleague on my left-hand side, Judge BT, to ask you some further questions. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Judge. Good morning, Mr. Witness. I have a few questions for you. The first question is, did Peter Shala have a nickname during the war? And I mean 98-99.
po,
Yes.
Could you tell us what was that nickname?
ka pas novë
His nickname was Uiko, Wolf.
Thank you. Did Peter Shala have any role in Operation Arrow?
po si që kom thonë edhe përpara,
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, when I met him too, he was a simple soldier back then.
He was a simple soldier participating in Operation Arrow or not?
po,
Yes.
This is not what you said to the SPO in 2019. I would like to go back to what you said, and it's maybe we will put it on the screen so that maybe that would refresh your memory. It's 083524 TR-ET. Yes, of course. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. We can go back to public session. Thank you, Madam Presiding Judge.
Madam Court Officer, could you bring us into public session, please?
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Thank you. I give the floor to Judge BT for further questions.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Judge. Madam Court Officer, could we go to part 5 of the SPO interview of the witness? And it's 083524 TR-ET. It's part 5. And it's page, I think, 32. And could you go to the bottom of the page, please? Voilà. For the Albanian, it's page 34, lines 19-20. And I think it is, I would very much ask the interpreters to check if I'm not mistaken.
No, you are not, Your Honor.
So that's it. Line 19-20. And then, so the first line, on page 25, page 32, line 25 says, did Pieter Shala have any role in Operation Shigieta, which I think is Operation Arrow? And then could you go to the following page, please, Madam Court Officer? And then your answer was nothing, not a single role. So you were very affirmative, I would say. So could you tell me if he had a role or not? Because frankly speaking, there is a contradiction between what you just. I see a slight contradiction. Could you explain, please?
Πω,
Yes. Back then, too, the way I understood the question is the same, as in to say, did he play a role, which in Albanian means, did he hold a particular position? In other words, if, as a KLA member, if they didn't have, say, a commanding position, then their role was as a simple soldier. They wouldn't have any other role. That's how I understood the question back then, and that's how I understand it now, too. So I do not know whether this is related to the interpretation or a mistake, or if it's my understanding, but this is how I understand it to be.
So the word nothing, because in English it is said nothing,
unë e kom kuptu se nuk
I took it to mean that he did not have any position at all. This is how I understood the question that was asked, the question that was asked of me.
Okay. And do you know if he had any participation in this Operation Arrow? When and where?
po e kom thonë
Yes, and I have stated this when we met for the first time, when he obtained the weapon and he went to the front up until his return, which was, I'm sure, in that direction. So he took part in the fighting.
But what you
por
said,
unë personalisht
So I personally have not seen him.
so you have no personal information whether he participated in Operation Arrow. But what I don't understand is that you're telling me that you met him in April and then he was going to the front, but in April, Operation Arrow did not start in April. So could you clarify? Because I don't follow what you are saying.
jo, operacioni Shigje
No, Operation Arrow started in May.
So in April, he didn't go to participate in Operation Arrow. So how do you know that in May he was participating in Operation Arrow? I don't understand.
po na njësitë
Well, our units were in their positions at all times from the beginning.
por luftimet tam
Although the fighting itself, Operation Arrow, started in May. That said, the positions were from early on, since his arrival.
So according to you, although you have no personal information, did you hear when exactly was he eventually participating in Operation Arrow? What is the time frame?
jos nuk kom
No, I haven't heard and I do not know personally.
Okay. So you didn't hear anything about his eventual participation in that operation, and you don't know if he did participate.
Io.
No.
Thank you. I will go to another topic. Mr. Witness, you were the chief of logistics for the Operation Arrow. Was that a demanding job?
Po.
Yes.
Πού να λογιστικές.
Logistics work is very tiring. It is very difficult. And given my own experience from the past, my career in the past too, in the armies I have served in, I have noticed that logistics is tough because, and you may know this from people who have been involved in the military, because in every single army, the key role is played by logistics. The weight, especially when it comes to the more recent wars, they always try to do away with the logistics, because if there were no logistics, what would the strength of a soldier on the front line be if they did not have any logistical support? So it depends obviously from the army, but in the war, I would say 5 to 10 logistics people serve a soldier in the front, because the soldier requires all of the supplies such as clothing, food, uniforms, ammunition, weapons, obviously also the place where they would need to rest, transport, fuel, anything and everything that they would need to be able to fight, and for them to have all the logistical help, but also in terms of medical support, because the medical support also finances too went through logistics. So all of this is actually done by the logistical section. So a lot of diversity in the work, complex too, and very difficult.
There was a lot of pressure on your shoulders during the entire Operation Arrow, I guess.
Po kompos.
Yes, there was. That said, I had extensive experience in Croatia, because it was also during the Croatian War, which took much longer than the Kosovan War. I had extensive experience there, and therefore I didn't encounter a lot of problems. Of course, there were problems, major ones as well, in particular in terms of supply, because as I've mentioned in the past as well, it's not like we had a particular base for our materials where everything would come in smoothly. For instance, there were cases when our soldiers, who for several days had to deal with dry food, for instance. So they didn't really have the opportunity to have proper cooked food, but eating out of tins or whatever there was in our warehouses.
The pressure on you increased when the Operation Arrow really started in May.
Po.
Yes. Every so often, the number of KLA members would increase, because there was general mobilization at the time. So there was quite a large number of KLA members, although I cannot tell you the exact number. The data is out there as to the number of KLA members that participated in the war. There were also different directions. The road transport was very tough because of the conditions of the roads, especially to get the supplies to the front line. Because sometimes to get to that particular soldier, for instance, to the front lines, people would have to actually go on foot because vehicles couldn't get through. So sometimes our people would have to carry the particular supplies. Part of the road would be actually done on horse or donkey or whatever we could find from the people living in the villages in that area of Albania.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Taking into consideration the pressure that you had on your shoulders, I would like to go back to what you said on page 2969 of the transcripts, line 18 to 21, especially when you describe a relaxed meeting with Peter Shala, having a coffee. Could you explain to us how was it possible, taking into consideration the pressure that was on you, to have such a relaxed meeting? Mr. Witness, did you understand the question? Mr. Witness, the reference I gave was to the transcript, so you will not find it on your screen. On your screen, it was a different document, so don't look. It was just a question. I was just making a reference to what you said when you referred to a relaxed meeting, having a coffee with the accused, but you will not find it on your screens. It just, so please, if you could answer my question. Do you want me to repeat it?
Oh, no need. Apologies for that. I thought something would come up on the screen, the transcript, and that is why I was waiting to give you an answer. So, when it comes to your question on Peter Shala, not just with him, but also every so often, despite the major work that we had to deal with, we would also find a moment to also relax ourselves, because sometimes it's important for one to relax as well. Perhaps in the evening we have gotten together, for instance, with other members of the staff, and we would just try and relax. When I said that, first of all, it wasn't a lengthy meeting. But when you do meet someone after many years have passed, you do have the opportunity to meet them and have a coffee, and of course you feel a bit more relaxed, like you're taking it easy, but that's what I meant. That is the meaning of what I said.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Witness. Madam Presiding Judge, I have finished. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Judge BT. Madam Court Officer, can we go for a short moment into private session for one further question?
Your Honors, we are now in private session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Mr. Witness, bear with us a little bit more. A question about a person we already discussed, Time Kadriye. Was she a nurse or a doctor?
Po,
Well, after the war, I managed to get to know Tima better. And I know that after the war, she did not continue with her career, but she moved to another career in the political sphere. And to this day, she's still an MP of the Kosovan parliament. And I've seen her several times. I've had the opportunity to meet her after the war in Kosovo, too. But actually, a couple of times, I also saw her in.
My question has not been clear. My question was if Tima Kadriye, during the war, what was her function to your knowledge? A nurse or a doctor?
mu me duke
I think she was a doctor.
That is what you said indeed in your testimony before the SPO, part 8, page 12, line 12, and I will cite the number 083524 TRET, 083524 TRET. But in the transcript, I noted that you indicated, and I will give the reference, that she was a nurse, and I just wanted to clarify.
për atë arsye
But that is the reason why I started explaining it that way. I'm not clear to this day whether she was a doctor or a nurse as such, because now she's involved in politics. But I think back then, when she was in Koshar, I think, her role was as a doctor.
For the reference is page 28, lines 14 to 19, and page 33, lines 12 to 22. It was just for me to clarify, and you have said that you don't really know. You think she was a doctor, but could also have been a nurse. That's what you say now, yeah? Very well, we can go back into public session.
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. I now turn to the parties and to Victims' Counsel. Do you wish to ask the witness any further questions related to the topics put by the panel to the witness? So please confer. Defense Counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for the offer to ask further questions. We will have one clarification on one discrete point about the timing of arrow and soldiers being in the front, if we are allowed.
if you keep it to what we have been asking, and it's clear that we want to give the opportunity if questions came as a kind of surprise or they need further clarification for your case and for the SPO and for Victims' Council, to give that opportunity. Please, you have the floor, Defense Counsel, and we can remain in public. Is a question. Okay.
Yes, yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Mr. Witness, good morning. We have spoken just earlier with Judge BT about the Operation Arrow and its start between the 25th of May and the 30th of May. My question is this. To your knowledge, was there soldiers in the front positioned, and was there any fighting before the official start of the Operation Arrow itself?
Po,
Yes.
andiamo in drejtim po.
In one direction, yes.
Can you help us with which direction or which general area?
Ne,
That was in the Koshar direction. They started off much earlier on, so I think it was around April. And the fighting there had already started earlier on. So I think they started off either on the 9th or the 10th of April, if I'm not wrong. Whereas in terms of the other directions, some had already taken their positions, but there was no direct fighting involved up until the beginning of the operation. So they were just preparing, and a small number had already taken their positions, whereas the others were in training centers preparing for Operation Arrow.
Would you allow me a final moment to confer?
Please, Defense Counsel.
One final question with the uniforms, maybe?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Mr. Witness, to your knowledge again, you spoke to us that it was random, depending on size, the availability of uniforms, what any given soldier would wear. But to your knowledge, from what you recollect, was there any attempt from a specific sector, like a medical sector, to try at least to distinguish themselves from other types of soldiers through uniforms, berets, or any kind of gear that they would be wearing?
Joska pas.
No, there weren't any. There were no attempts to make this distinction, other than the medical staff when they were carrying out their medical work and when they were wearing their own uniform, and I mean the white coats, for instance, in particular, when they served in the field hospitals. There, they would wear their own uniform, the white coats.
Just to understand, you are talking about the white blues that we normally see doctors and people and medical staff wear. That's what you...
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witness. Thank you, Your Honors.
Very well. Madam Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Yes, Your Honor. Thanks again also for the offer, for this opportunity. We'll also have one question as a follow-up.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Witness, when Operation Arrow started, did the unit under Rusdi Saramati take any specific direction or specific position to the front?
Yes.
Which one was that?
His direction, or number 4 direction, was the one Kukas Gorojup Chaf Morin.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. This concludes our questions.
Thank you, Madam Prosecutor. Victims' Counsel, do you have questions?
Your Honour, we have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Witness, we have reached the end of your testimony, and I would like to thank you for the efforts you have put into giving your testimony in the last 3 days. So, thank you very much. I remind you that you should not discuss your testimony before the Kosovo Specialist Chambers with anybody. And I wish you a safe trip home. And I will ask Madame Court Usher to accompany you out of the courtroom. Depends on what you want to say, but please.
Come diretto
Can I just express my opinion, my free opinion?
So you can go with.
Sunday.
Thank you. Good day to everyone.
Before we adjourn till the 20th of November, we will proceed with issuing 2 oral orders with regard, one to sentencing procedure, if applicable, of course, and the admission of material into evidence, respectively. We will start with the last one. That is an oral ruling in relation to Victims' Counsel requests for admission of expert report and associate material, which is filing 625, dated the 25th of August 2023. Victims' Counsel requests the admission into evidence of the following documents used during his examination of expert witnesses Karin Dune Prince and Dr. Chain Lozano Parra, both from the Instituut voor Mensenrechten en Medisch Onderzoek, IMO. A, the CVs of both experts, and B, the forensic medical examination report produced by the 2 experts, along with its Albanian translation. The defense does not object to the admissibility of this material, and this is filing 636, dated the 4th of September 2023. The present ruling is made pursuant to Rules 132, 137, 138, and 149, paragraph 4 of the rules, and the panel refers also, by way of background, to its decision, which is filing 598, dated to 21st of July 2023. The panel finds that the expert report is relevant as it contains information regarding the harm suffered by one of the victims participating in proceedings, as well as the impact of such harm on the victim. The report is authentic as it bears a number of indicia of authenticity, dates, signatures, and logo of IM, and was furthermore authenticated by both authors, expert witnesses Karin Dune Prince and Cheyenne Lozano Parra, during their testimony in court. Finally, the panel finds that the expert report has probative value, which is not outweighed by the prejudicial effect to the defense. And the panel notes in this regard that the defense has had the opportunity to cross-examine the expert witness and does not oppose the admission into evidence of their report. The panel therefore admits the expert report into evidence. The panel's finding extends to the Albanian translation of the report. With regard to the document containing the CVs of both expert witnesses, with ERN number V4010045 till V4010048, the panel considers this item to be available to the panel for the purpose of its deliberation for the judgment on the guilt or innocence of the accused. And then, to summarize, the panel grants Victims' Counsel request, admits into evidence the expert report and its Albanian translations. The ERN numbers are V4010023 till V4010044 and V4010023 till V4010044-80. Further, it considers item ERN V4010045 till V4101148 to be available to the panel for the purpose of its deliberation for the judgment on the guilt or innocence of the accused. And we instruct the registry to assign exhibit numbers to all of the above items for the purpose of maintaining an accurate record of the proceedings pursuant to Article 40, Paragraph 5 of the law and Rule 24, Paragraph 1 of the rules, and to classify them as confidential. This concludes our first oral ruling. Then we have a second oral ruling, which pertains to the sentencing procedure that the panel will adopt in the present case, and it's rendered pursuant to Rules 159, Paragraph 6, and 163 of the Rules of the Procedure and Evidence before this court. Following an order from the panel dated the 16th of June 2023, the panel received submissions from the parties and Victims' Counsel on August 25, 31st of August, and the 1st of September 2023, respectively, on the sentencing procedure the panel should adopt in the present case, in the event the accused is found guilty of one or more crimes charged. And these are filings 627, 630, and 633, respectively. The SPO and Victims' Counsel submit that in the event the accused is found guilty, the panel should determine the appropriate sentence together with the pronouncement of the trial judgment, pursuant to Rule 159, Paragraph 6 of the rules. Victims' Counsel has also informed the panel that he will not present additional evidence for the purpose of sentencing. Madam Prosecutor, do I understand correctly from your submissions that you also do not intend to submit any additional evidence for a purpose of sentencing?
Not at this time, Your Honors.
Thank you. The defense submits that in the event the accused is found guilty, the panel should determine the appropriate sentence in separate procedure to rules pursuant to Rules 162 and 164 of the rules. And the defense argues in particular that a separate sentencing procedure would allow it to present targeted submissions that are tailored to the panel's legal and factual findings, and thus make a better use of its limited time and resources. And the defense further indicates that it will present evidence relating to the sentencing during the presentation of its case, and that it reserves the right to request the panel to hear additional evidence if necessary, should the panel decide to proceed with a separate sentencing procedure. The panel defense is not persuaded by the submissions of the defense, and we note at the outset that Rule 159, paragraph 6 of the rules clearly establishes a presumption that in the case the accused is found guilty of one or more crimes, the sentence to be imposed should be pronounced at the same time as the trial judgment. And your arguments have not convinced the panel to depart from this presumption. And first, we will address them. First, the fact that the defense will have to address different possible outcomes in terms of modes of liability and mitigating and aggravating circumstances is not particular to this case and is not in itself unfair. This already was and will be the case in proceedings before this court. The defense will have sufficient time to make its submissions and present its evidence, and has been fully appraised of the charges against the accused and the alleged facts. Second, the SPO and Victims' Counsel, for now, do not have additional evidence to present for the purposes of sentencing, and we noted that the defense too intends to present evidence relevant to sentencing during its case. This militates in favor of pronouncing the sentence at the same time as the trial judgment in case of a conviction, rather than having a procedure afterwards. And third and last, to the extent that the defense refers to the practice of other courts or tribunals, the panel recalls that the Kosovo Specialist Chamber apply their own law and rules, which differ in this respect from the legal text of other courts. So in light of the foregoing, the panel does not see any reason to proceed in the present case in accordance with rules 162 and 164 of the rules. So therefore, in the occasion the accused is found guilty of one or more crimes charged, the panel will determine the appropriate sentence with the pronouncement of the trial judgment in accordance with Rule 159, paragraph 6 of the rules. Accordingly, the panel orders the defense to present any evidence on sentencing, including by disclosing it in legal workflow, during the upcoming presentation of its case, and to file requests tendering such evidence at the latest by the closing of the defense case, pursuant to Rule 131 of the rules. And the date for closing of the defense case will be set later at the appropriate time. In addition, the panel directs the SPO to submit the criminal record of the accused, as well as any other record of previous convictions for criminal offences, in accordance with Rule 163, paragraph 3 of the rules, at the latest by the closing of the defense case. Finally, we direct the parties and Victims' Counsel, should they wish to do so, to address matters related to sentencing in their final trial briefs, in the statement on the impact of the alleged crimes on victims participating in the proceedings, and or in their respective closing statements. And submissions should address the following matters. 1, the gravity of the crimes charged and their consequences, the accused personal contribution of the crimes, the individual circumstances of the accused, and the mitigating and aggravating circumstances related to those factors, as set out in particular in Article 44, paragraph 5 of the law on the Specialist Chambers and Prosecutor's Office, and Rule 163, paragraph 1 of the rules. It should also address any proposed sentence to be imposed pursuant to Rule 163, paragraph 4 of the rules, and any other relevant information that may assist the panel in determining an appropriate sentence. And this concludes the panel's second oral ruling. And then, if there's anything to raise with the panel, now is the moment. Mr. Prosecutor.
Good morning, Your Honor. This concerns scheduling for the next evidentiary block. So we understand there are 7 defense witnesses, if I'm not wrong, currently left to be heard by this panel. 2 of them are currently scheduled for the next block. 5 of them are subject of a summons. We understand the need for flexibility in order to ensure that we make maximum use of courtroom time, and also to ensure that the trial proceeds at as fast a pace as possible. But to the extent that it's possible, the SPO would request to be informed, if possible, in advance of the next block, or what witnesses we might expect to hear with some days in advance, if that is logistically possible and feasible for the panel, compatibly, of course, with the difficulties that we understand there are in organizing these summonses.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. I will come back to that. I will first make a round and then we will get back to that. Victims' Counsel.
No, nothing to raise. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor, and on the same matter.
At this moment, I think it's good that we go into private. Madam Court Officer, can't you bring us into private session, please?
Your Honors, we are now in public session.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Now that we have discussed the schedule for the upcoming evidentiary block, and we promised that we would keep you updated for what is to come in that week, we will adjourn the hearing till the 20th of November. But before doing that, I want to thank the interpreters for their hard work the last 3 days, and the stenographer, the audiovisual booth, and the security. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise.